Hey, Mark here. I just have a fun announcement for you. So, we recently started doing these Final Fight episodes, and we've been putting them up with the movies, the regular movie, films, and flicks episodes. However, the Final Fight episodes people really loved. So, we figured that we would start a brand new podcast just called Final Fights, brought to you by Movies, Films, and Flicks, where it's nothing but final fights in movies, where we discuss every punch, bite, kick, head kick, gut punch, everything you can think about. We do a lot of research, and they're short episodes. They're probably about 20 to 30 minutes. They're really quick to listen to, and they just talk about all your favorite final fights. So head to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, and rate, review, and subscribe, and listen to Final Fights. I think you'll really enjoy it. Thank you. Welcome to Final Fights, brought to you by Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who loves to throw very high punches. It's John Levingood.
I mean, just the highest punches, and preferably very slow ones if I'm fighting Van Damme.
Now, before we get to the final fight, I'll rewatch this movie to kind of get a refresher about all the tournament, how they got through it, like what, like how do they win, who do they fight, who are the side characters, just for a refresher. And I noticed some really great things I don't think I've ever noticed before in this. And as I started reading about the different fighters, I realized that a lot of these fighters have nicknames. Mm-hmm. So I just learned that there's Jazzy Jeff, which makes me really happy that he's the guy that Ray Jackson throws off the mat in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
When Phil kicks him out of the house, okay.
Yeah. And then there's like Hammer Pants, there's Fire Shorts, there's Mouth Guard. And it just really cracked me up watching these guys again and seeing who these personalities were, because as you're watching this movie, you realize there's about 6 good fighters in this tournament. Would you say? Like, air quotes, good fighters.
Yeah. I mean, in general, that's fair. I'd be nitpicking to pick a different number.
I'd say, Paco, the Thai kickboxer, he's legit. And then you have Swan Paradis, Michael Kesey, who is Tong Po and kickboxer. He got his shin destroyed, but he put up some good fights.
He was also Attila in Lionheart.
Oh my god! Oh, whoa! He got big for Lionheart.
I think he just added body fat as he got a little older, to be honest. But yeah, that was he as well.
So you have those guys, and then obviously we got to add Chong Li, Frank. Now this is gonna sound crazy, but Ray Jackson, he's not a good fighter, but he is powerful.
He's a good brawler, and because he got a good surprise start, the brawl took over, right? I think that a lot of this isn't meant to sound like culturally ignorant, but a lot of the mishmash of Japanese and Chinese style martial artists were all very good. And by the way, I'm not saying Asian, because all depictions of Korean martial arts were losers. No joke. All Korean martial artists were losers. There were no Indian. I didn't see any. There
was no Iko Ue-esque fighters.
Penchak Salat.
Yep.
Right? Is that what that is? I didn't see that. So it was basically Korean, Japanese, and Chinese. But there was a lot of there was a lot of Chinese and Japanese fighters, and all of them, they found some on point choreography.
Oh yeah, the scene where. Was it Jackson Njiyuksu when he is fighting Frank Dux, and when he's fighting Frank JCVD, they throw the matching high kicks, and that dude was a real legit fighter, and they told him to take it easy on him, take it easy on JCVD in the fight. So these are these guys in here. So Paco, he's a real Thai kickboxer, dude. He had just the stance, the way he fought. Swan Paradis, a lot of these guys were legit athletes. And I want to ask you a question, John. I asked you this earlier. In this final, so we're going to be talking about the final fight. But who had the easier road to the final fight, Frank or Chong Li?
I want to start by saying, when you asked this question, I thought it was a loaded question. Because usually your protagonist has the much harder time getting through the tournament, even in Van Damme's The Quest, which is basically modeled after this, than the main bad guy who also makes it to the final. The main bad guy tends to have a breeze on the way up, and then they tend to start crushing in the final match and then all of a sudden lose, right?
Yeah.
But this movie did not do that. And so I rewatched the fights and I actually paid attention. I wrote down every single fight that each of the two of them had and whether they were easy or challenging or why. And I honestly believe that they were strikingly equivalent.
Yeah, I would say that's about right. I think the two toughest ones that Frank had were Paco and Pumola, the sumo
wrestler.
the kind of hybrid sumo wrestler. Right. Because, Sadiq, he knocked out. He had a guy, the last day opponent, the fire shorts, he knocked him out. Then you had the throat slash guy who got knocked out. Orange gi guy, he got kicked in the face about 18 times. And then you had the guy who did one cool spin kick, then got knocked out by a body shot. So his two toughest were Paco and Pumola. Chong Li, he had Ray Jackson, who was super tough. He had Swan.
Who whooped him, by the way.
Yeah.
Who whooped him to the point that he was half knocked out.
Yeah, and then, Ray's such an idiot. I've been watching this movie my entire life, and I get pissed off every time Ray Jackson goes down. And then he fought Swan, Paradis, Michael Kesey. He landed some good shots. I would say he's a real tough dude.
Heavy punches.
Yeah, heavy punches. So he had some tough guys in there leading up to it. Now, he did fight no takedown defense guy who just pulled his legs out. And then he fought Mouthguard, who went down pretty easy. And Hammer Pants went down pretty good. But they each probably had two really tough competitors. So I would say it's about equal.
I'd actually say that Chong Li had three.
Oh, wow.
Because his last fight, the guy whose neck he broke at the end with the gold pants.
Yeah.
Is that Hammer Pants?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No, that's Chong Ip Mung.
Okay, so that guy punched Chong Li in the face like 5 times. And he did a double palm on either side at the same time, slap on his mandible. So he actually got in, even though he's a little guy, he got in a lot of hard hits. But even though I think Chong Li had 3 tough fights and Van Damme only had 2, Frank Dux, when he fought the sumo guy though, that was really grueling, and he might have had joint pain after that from the arm twists. And when he fought Paco,
his ribs.
Even though Paco only got in 1 good hit when he was playing tough guy, and I've done that with people when I was taking martial arts in high school and college. You're real tough right then, but later you're sore.
He caught shin on ribs.
Right. So even though he just had 2, his 2 would have taken more of a toll. And Chong Li took a lot of face hits from his three fights that were tough. So, but again, generally I find them pretty equal.
And now I have one last thing. So one thing, I like how the tournament is set up pretty quick. When Frank gets the record, he beats out Chong Li's record. So then Chong Li is pissed. And I kind of like that they set this up. And they set up this fight where, this is a long fight, John. This is a fight that's about 7 minutes in length, right? 7 minutes in length. And do you want to guess how many strikes were landed in the final fight?
Are we counting the jump kicks that were just repeated with multiple cameras from different angles?
I counted those just because they had to show them. And I count throws. I count throws too. And the triple hits.
I think throws should count, but and some of his punches were double down too. So all right, I'm going to guess. This is how many total hits?
Yep.
50.
49.
Oh, it's so
You're insane,
close.
John.
By the way, I deliberately did not count.
That's amazing.
I deliberately didn't count.
So they land that, and there's a scene in this thing, in this fight, where Jean-Claude Van Damme is blinded, and he sits there for 1 minute and 21 seconds just yelling. So it's not all fighting. There's a lot of knockdowns. There's a lot of this going on. Now, when they start the fight, Chong Li's like, you broke my record. Now I break you like I broke your friend. You have Frank bowing, and then you have Chong Li flexing his pecs. Are those like Reeboks back in the day that he gets pumped up?
Like Air Jordans?
Yeah, when he pumps his pecs, is that the way that he gets pumped up? Is that his bowing to people?
Well, first off, that dude has very little respect for bowing. His bows were so half-assed. even to the masters of the Korukai up front. He barely did a bro nod.
Nothing.
But honestly, so I've seen him do pec flexes back in his Bruce Lee days. I almost think that was totally involuntary.
He's just so used to doing it.
I think that it was almost like when he turned and your arms just sway the littlest bit. I almost think that just happened.
Wow.
Because when he flexes his pecs, it's like someone rang a tuning fork. Like that dude is if you weigh him, I bet he's 50% pec.
Yeah. Oh, easily. And do you think that's why Frank went for the body? Because he said his gut isn't strong.
Yeah, it's funny too.
He's all like, you don't punch his pecs, but you punch his gut.
He's got a hell of a body, but apparently that's just that's just like his weak thing. And maybe he's weak to the gut. Remember when they said he's sweet to the gut?
Yeah.
Well, Van Damme said, or Duke said it. But I wonder if it's actually not that it's a literal weak point, but that his hubris makes it so, like when people go into a fight, they grit their teeth, they tighten their jaw, they tighten their neck. Whereas he just walks up, he's all casual, he's not flexed and tight. So when you hit him in the gut, he's not ready for it like ever.
Yeah. No, and he didn't block much. JCVD is kicking. Okay, so this is my biggest problem, and we've talked about this before, John, on Movies, Films, and Flicks, the podcast, and I've written articles about it. JCVD's final villains, the final fights, they fall apart. They're very tough, and then when adversity hits them, they have nothing. So I thought it was really interesting. Did you think it was interesting how JCVD opened the fight up with a head kick, and then he jumped off the ref and hit Chong Li?
I mean, he had like 10 strong hits for 2 from Chong Li, like in the first, 20 seconds. This was his, of the tough fights, air quotes, this was his easiest tough fight. He was owning it.
Yeah, and he was just handing it to him. Now, Chong Li did land a nice body kick, and then he had a good throw. But for the most part, it was basically take 3 punches to get one. I don't think he had ever come up against a fighter like Frank. So I don't think he was prepared for it. And I guess my biggest question about this final fight is, John, when JCVD Frank is yelling for 90 seconds, what is he doing?
What is Chong Li doing? Okay, well, first, I feel like, that was slowed down a little bit, right? I feel like but in reality, even in the reality of this movie, that felt like it had to be 30 seconds of dead time, right?
Yeah. So let's say 90 seconds of slow motion. What's he doing during that 90 seconds of slow motion?
But I feel like he is almost like a supervillain. His flaws are not moral or innocent mistakes. They are from his hubris and his fixations. And his fixation is looking good in front of these audiences and winning. So he just thinks the moment that he's done that he's won. Yeah. So I think that when that happens, after he hits him the one time and and Van Damme's down on his knees and he's slow-mo with his hands out, I think Chong Li is reveling in the fact that he thinks that the audience is responding to the huge hit that knocked Frank Dux down and it just totally took away all of his momentum. Mm-hmm. I think that he's shaking his fists up and down because he's basically the fist pumper 20 years before the Jersey Shore.
He's doing the worm?
Practically, right? So I think that he's just basking in what he forecasts as his inevitable victory right now.
Got it. And then he goes to throw the giant punch, but that gives JCVD Frank time to collect his bearings, remember his training, and then catch the punch, give him a gut kick, and then just start landing kick after kick after kick. He is right. There's no setups. In a lot of fights, you got to work the jab. Let's say you're left-handed, you throw some rights, to get your left in. You punches and bunches. You set up things. You switch stances. Frank is just kicking him in the face. There's no lateral movement or any of this. Right. So I just love that Chong Li just gets completely caught off guard. And I learned something interesting in my research for this. This movie didn't have stuntmen. So all these actors, they were all martial artists, they were all athletes, but they all did their own stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. That's
always how you get the best fights too. It's like you watch some movies with like Scott Adkins folks.
Scotty
and
Adkins.
like when he is an outstanding stuntman and martial artist, but his fights only look as good as the worst person he's fighting on screen. Yeah. And so sometimes he looks bad because he has a crappy stuntman or choreographer fighting him. And then likewise, a lot of times in these movies, the secondary fights of the non-main characters, they're just suck and they're throwaways and they're brief moments. Whereas in this, like you said, like we have real fighters. So a lot of these other fights, like you actually give a damn. And it's almost like you walk away, if you enjoyed this movie, remembering those two Chinese dudes who were training together in the beginning of the movie, who then met and fought each other on the stage, on the platform. You know, it's like you remember those things because they all looked good and they all had their own style.
Unique
Very
looking.
energizing.
Yeah, unique looking. You can kind of know who they are. They have enough that's interesting about them. And I don't know how you felt about this, John, but I really came away respecting Bolo Yeung a lot more because he sold it for this young JCVD. JCVD wasn't the hotness yet. And you have this guy, Bolo Yeung, who absolutely sells the punches. I mean, when he gets hit by Frank, it looks like Chong Li's head's going to pop off. He sells for JCVD. And I know he got paid. I know he's an actor. And I know he's he was like Mr. Asia, one of the just jack dudes around. He could play the drums with his pecs. Dwayne Johnson would be jealous. But I love that he was selling for him. And that made the fight a lot better. And I think another thing that makes this fight better is how vulnerable JCVD looks in this fight. So you have Bolo selling it, and you have Jean-Claude Van Damme actually looking vulnerable and yelling and like pulling off the powder to the eyes, the blindness. Really, I don't know about really well, but it all feels like a very earnest fight, and that's why I think this movie is one of the fight kind of classics that people go to over and over.
Not just that, you know, it's from the very start, you went out of your way to mention to all our wonderful listeners, thank you everybody, but to mention to our listeners that you didn't just watch the final fight a few times to prepare for this, because we've both seen this movie untold numbers of times. Mm-hmm. You sat and watched the whole movie, and guess what? So did I.
Yep.
Last night, I sat down and I started thinking, okay, let's the first scene. I love the music. So I just sat down and watched it. This martial arts movie has from a general filmmaking perspective, has so much heart and a great soundtrack that really backs it.
And I don't know if you noticed during the final fight how the camera angles got so much different. So when Frank gets the powder thrown in his eyes, there's a wide shot and it's a dolly shot that goes left and right for about 30 seconds. They pull away to the wide shots. A lot of these fights are kind of at one static angle to capture them really fast. But the final fight, they really busted out all the stops. I love the dolly shot at the end. I thought the extras actually in the stands were really good. I loved how they were just waving the money. It'd be nice and cool in there. I think the wide shots and then coming back in, the way they positioned the mat, the floor, it really created a stylistic fight. And it feels, I like that they saved, you're supposed to do this, but they pulled all the stops for the final fight. And after you watch it a few times, you really realize, wow, that's a really great dolly shot they just did. That's smart that they pulled for the wide shot. They did some really cool stuff. That they did slow-mo. They did, they showed the same kick 3 times. They really wanted to get a bang for their buck, and they did it in this final fight.
Yeah, I mean, and even though they pulled all the stops for the final fight, though, I'm again going to say this. I think all the fights, uniformly, the fight aspect of this movie is still glorious. It's more montage-y leading up to the final fight. Gosh, it's such a great movie. I had a friend on Facebook just today, like, talking about how horrible this movie is. And I get it. Look, we all have the things that we like. But it's like, if you enjoy a Van Damme movie, period, the end, I'm expecting that you adore this.
Mm-hmm. I can see how people call the cheesiness out. But I think the earnestness and the kind of competition and the villain, I don't know, this JCVD's performance gives you enough to like. You just got to be open to it, I think.
Oh, a friend of mine, and he was being cheeky at this point, but I honestly do believe that he does not like or respect this movie. But he said, I reserve no statements of greatness for movies featuring Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh, geez,
and when he said that, all of a sudden, and I was inside, I was getting angry that he was I'm like, you do not hate on Van. You must know I love Van Damme. You must know. You've been my Facebook friend for years. You see what I watch. And I was I was actually getting annoyed at work as I'm seeing this when I take a Facebook break every couple hours. And then when he said that, it's like, okay, at least you're going to be funny about it. I accept your criticism. It's not for everybody. It's just for most people with good taste.
Yeah. I think it's too easy to pick out the flaws, but that's why I like doing these. That's why I like this, like doing these podcasts with you. And I think we try to look at the little things in here. And another thing I want to look at is I sent you this question earlier. You're one of the Kumite fighters. What would your personality be?
Okay. Plus size wushu.
Yes. Because that was your training, right?
Absolutely. I'm going to be the oversized guy doing Chinese opera acrobatics. And so, but
you're like
because
a Chris
of that,
Farley, but not a Chris Farley. You know what I mean?
But because of that, like, I'm never going to do a double somersault, even if it's off of a high point to a lower ground. But if at my size, if I just do a single somersault, even though it almost looks like it's in slow motion because I'm so big, people are just going to be like, whoa!
Like, they just don't expect how athletic you are out there.
Right, just jump spin kicks. And you see, it's like smoke signaling because my leg is so big. It's like a windmill coming at you. But still, like, just imagine, though, you do that to back off your opponent. So now it's a strategy to back off your opponent, and then you rush in with the jabs, with the Chong Li jabs. Chong Li was a good jabber. I'll give him that.
Oh, yeah, he got with his hands down. They came up quick. The one part I don't like, though, is Chong Li rolls. Does a roll only so that JCVD can do a jump split.
Right.
I was like, there's no tactical. Chong Li would not do that. He would not roll. That's the one false thing. I mean, the split's great. That's the one part I didn't like about this fight.
So I have a defense for that scene, although the way they depicted it, I can't argue that you can tell that he was doing this. But in a real fight, if someone was about to try and basically bum rush you, just get you around the waist and tackle you to the ground, if you started that way and then you saw someone start to jump and you don't know what they're doing, but they're doing a jump, like a jump kick, your reaction might be to turn it into a roll. But it did not look like he turned a tackle into a roll. It just looked like, I'm going to do a front roll into him.
Maybe he was hoping to get... I know there's a guy named Ryan Hall. He's an MMA fighter, and he currently fights in the UFC. And he does a lot of rolls into leg locks and then gets heel hooks on them. So do you think Chong Li was trying to get a heel hook?
I don't know what he... at that point, we were just having like a nice moment of fandom for... it's funny to call it that, actually, because it's like, this was before Van Damme had fandom. Yeah. But that almost seemed... This is how he got fandom. We were staging a hero moment.
Yeah, trailer moment. I think if I had to be a fighter, John, I would be... Because, I boxed, and I was like a wrestler, so I'd be like the Randy Couture-esque, the wrestle boxer kind of guy.
You know what I picture you as?
What?
I picture you as the, like, punching through wooden building supports Dolph Lundgren from The Expendables.
Oh, my... Yeah, sure.
Like when he fought Jet Li.
Oh, banging his head into stuff. What a great fight.
Right. Like I see you as the guy who, but you see, you're a big, heavy brawler, but you're smart about it. Which you almost never see on screen.
I love a good Dolph Lundgren fight.
I see you being the big guy that the little quick guys are like, oh, I know how to handle these big, slow guys. And then like when they try and do something clever, you just jab them because they think you're going to do one of those windmill haymakers that you see from a mile away. And you're just going to give them a good big dude jab to the face a couple times.
They're so underutilized. I mean, the jab is such a great weapon that not too many people use. Gotta throw a jab. So
glad. Like, see, Chong Li looks like the guy who's going to do these supervillain haymakers and just rip someone's head off. And yet most of what he does are jabs and kicking the waist or lower.
Yep.
Leg checks and jabs. He's a smart fighter who is an idiot about fighting because of his hubris.
I mean, and then he just, once he starts losing, he falls apart.
Okay, yeah, dude, because he doesn't know how to get hit.
Yeah, because he probably doesn't get hit much.
Yeah, he doesn't. That's just it. Dude never learned to get hit.
Remember when Brock Lesnar was steamrolling people? And then when he fought like Cain Velasquez or different fighters, when he started getting hit? Well, no, he took a ton of punishment from Shane Carwin. So I can't say that. Never mind. Scratch that. But final thoughts about this fight before we get out of here?
Ooh, I just think it's amazing. And, yeah. A lot of these movies, when the fight is over and you see someone kind of getting their award or it's the award ceremony or everyone's telling them how great they were. Of course, normally that's the end of the movie, and this movie doesn't quite do that. But, like, when he was sitting up there and he fixed his hair. His hair looked different from the whole movie. But when he was standing in front of the Masters of the Korukai, I'm just like, I was not waiting for that scene to end. And I think most movies like this, I'm waiting for that scene to end. But I was in it. I was so happy. They had that nice, almost mystical chime music in the background as he's, hearing about, how he fought with inspiration. And even though that seems like such a canned thing to say, like I was there. I was as there today, rewatching it right before we recorded, as I was when I was like 10 and I was watching Mystified by this amazing movie. So I think it's just it's so much heart. So much heart in this movie. What about you?
If I was Frank, I'd just be pissed at the refs for knowing that a dude threw a substance into my eyes. Because there's a lot of powder.
But that's an interesting point. Remember, Mr. Lin told us there are only 2 rules. Mr. Lin.
Oh yeah, no. What the 2 rules were? What?
No fighting outside of the ring.
Yeah.
And don't get thrown out of the arena.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yep.
But that instead brings to my attention, why the crap is there an official in the arena?
I guess just to keep because he lets Chong Li kill a guy too.
Right. He's not stopping anything. If anything, he gets in the way.
Yeah, and he did get in the way.
He starts the fight and then he gets in the way. But Lin said of course he might have just been speaking colloquially, but there are only 2 rules, guys.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. He was good. But this was fun, man. Thank you for joining me. I'm glad we got to tackle this classic.
Dude, wonderful movie. I'm so glad to be here.
All right, so for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, and for John Levingood, this is Final Fights. We'll see you next week.